Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 36 of the Next Goal Wins podcast. Whew. I'm joined by Joe, Stats Man. Give us an update, Joe.
Stats are looking good. Closing in on 40.
Joe has no access to the actual
40
stats,
what?
by the way.
Oh, 40 videos?
Yeah.
Oh.
40 videos. Oh, yeah, 30,
Yeah.
36.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel, George?
Closing in on 40.
Old.
36. I can't. I'm stuck. I'm stuck not being able to do fractions for a while until we get to close to 50. Once we start getting closer to 50, then I can start giving you the fractions of how close we actually are to 100.
Okay.
But we're still here. Listen, did you actually think, though, after 36 episodes, we'd still be here? 36 hour and like 15 hour, 20-minute episodes.
So we've done like 40 hours plus worth of podcasts.
I can't remember who I was showing the podcast to, and they were like, damn, you sit there for an hour and 20 minutes? And I'm like, yeah, typically. That's how long our episodes usually take.
Yeah. More like 3 hours, an hour to get ready, an hour to listen to your joke.
I had a joke before the podcast started where it was one of those jokes where
You want to tell again?
the guy telling the joke laughs more than the guys who are listening to the joke. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Probably a bad thing. But anyway, here's the thing, though. Not much has been going on. I feel like it's been probably like a month since we've had Premier League action.
It's
It has
too
been,
long.
probably, right? Like actual consistent.
Consistent, yeah. It's been a long time.
Kind of
And
annoying.
the games are on random days now, and you get one or two of them. There's very few of those days where you can sit and watch.
The last weekend. Thank God.
Then back at it, hopefully.
Normality.
Yeah. Got a lot of stuff going on. There is competitions going on. I mean, obviously we have the AFCON, we have the Asian Cup, and then we have the EFL Cup, we have the Copa del Rey. So there's a lot of stuff actually going on. Lots of football being played. We just haven't had the Premier League, which it's kind of difficult because like teams are beating teams, and it's like it doesn't really count for anything
Yeah.
because it's not the Premier League, right? But let's get into the precap, actually. Let's get into the precap. So precap, a couple of things we'll talk about is the EFL Cup final is finally set. Chelsea versus Liverpool. We talked about this a few weeks ago. We said that was the possibility. And Chelsea smashed Middlesbrough.
They did.
Yeah.
6-1, was it? Total,
Six
aggregate?
I
I think it was like aggregate 6-1 or something like that.
I
I don't know. It was a lot.
yeah.
Yeah,
It was a lot.
sounds right.
Smashed them. And Liverpool got the best of Fulham. Barca is out of the Copa del Rey, which has some implications for the managerial position. So we'll talk a little bit about that. The the Real Madrid versus Atletico Bilbao drama, the VAR drama, the rigged.
You mean Real Madrid against Almeria?
Oh shit! It was Almeria, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I wrote Bilbao. My bad.
Oh, yeah. Well, they're the next. They beat Barca.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's where
Yeah,
I wrote it down wrong. Yes, the VAR. I guess it will be a whole segment today
It
because
will
we're
be a
going to
long
talk about
segment today.
It's
Yeah, for
literally
sure.
just going to be that game.
And then the only other thing I put in terms of like related to Premier League players is found out a little bit more about Salah's injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, some controversy about him flying back to England for treatment. Did you see that?
Yeah. It makes
Yeah.
no, I don't get
know.
it.
We'll talk a little bit about that. There's the transfer window segment, which is still quiet, still pretty quiet. Calvin Phillips to West Ham on loan.
I do have a theory of why.
Oof. Do you want
Conspiracy
to
theory
say now, or
segment?
you want to wait till the transfer?
We'll wait.
All right, we'll wait. And then there's more. We'll talk about all that stuff in the transfer window segment. And then the wild card segment for today is just simple. Who's better? I'm going to give you guys two players, and you're going to have to tell me which one is a better player. Not which one you liked better. Like, because we talked last week about Ronaldinho making you feel a certain way when he played.
Mhm.
Who was the better footballer, the more effective footballer, winning games, competitions? Who would you want on the field that could win you a trophy or win you that game? Okay? And then fun facts. I do have a fun fact about managers.
Is it from the book?
It is not from the book. I got it online because of something that happened. And then I did some research, did some digging. I found a fun fact, which, once again, I will ask you as a trivia question.
Mm.
All right?
All right.
Ready to get into it then?
Got a lot
Let's
to
go.
do.
All right. So, Georgie, we'll start with you. EFL Cup final, Chelsea versus Liverpool. How confident are you feeling going into the final?
I don't know. It's a weird one. just because I don't know which Chelsea Liverpool are gonna get. That's the crazy part. It's either Chelsea either here or here. There's no, like, they're never in between. It's either they're out of this world, which has been fairly rare, or they're complete shambles. So it's a weird one too, because I don't know how. For example, Alisson is not going to play in the final. I don't know if Jurgen Klopp is going to go back to the actual starters, or is he going to stick with the team that got him there, because that depends as well. But I mean, I'm still pretty confident regardless. I think it's a good way. It's a good thing if Liverpool, obviously you're in the final. If you end up winning the final, it gives you momentum for the Premier League to push everybody, give the fans, the supporters, overall the whole entire club the winning feeling to push on and hopefully finish the season on a high. So I think I don't want to say it's a must win, but if you're in the final, you might as well win. And obviously no player is going to go into a final and taking it easy. So
what do you think, Joe?
I think Liverpool should win, but to Georgie's point, it's Chelsea do this thing against other big clubs in big games sometimes this season where they show up and play well, that I would be nervous as a Liverpool fan because you're expecting to win the game regardless of who you start, and it will be very frustrating to somehow blow it and lose to a Chelsea team who, if you really think about it, this is their whole season, where they're going to put everything for it, and they're going to obviously go for it. Not that, to your point, like, not that the players in Liverpool aren't, but Jurgen Klopp, depending on who he starts, who's fit, where you're sitting in the table at the time. I don't know when the final is.
February 25th, I believe.
Okay, so there's still about almost exactly a month away, where I could see Liverpool winning it easily, but then I also could see somehow Chelsea pulling it out, and then Pochettino walking away with a trophy on the season, which will keep him there for a little bit longer, and it would be it could be a really big gut punch, I think, for Liverpool. But I still think Liverpool should and will find a way to win the game. But I'm glad I'm not a Liverpool fan for that one, because it would be really frustrating to lose that game to Chelsea.
I think it'll be harder for you only for the fact that Chelsea's been absolute shite, and this is, like Joe said, this is what they're playing for. Like, Liverpool is more focused on staying healthy and winning the league, rather than trying to win the EFL Cup.
The quadruple.
You can't even win the quadruple.
Why not?
You're not even in the Champions League.
We're in the Europa League.
Oh,
that's 4 trophies.
I was gonna say you could win the.
Liverpool winning the quadruple this year.
That's not the quadruple.
What do you mean? It's
the
4 trophies.
Wish.com quadruple.
It's 4 trophies.
Yeah, but if do you think then, because it's a month away, so if I was Klopp, I wonder how much importance I would give to the final in terms of, do I put all of my best players? Because let's say Salah's probably back in. That's the time frame for him, is to come back around that date because he's going to come back for the final if Egypt makes it to the final. That's what they said, if everything goes well. So in a month, you guys will probably be pretty healthy overall, unless something happens. It is a final, so why not put your best players? But then on the other hand, like, you do so he's starting some of the players, like, in goal. Who's he starting in goal? Kelleher, right?
So Kelleher is going to start. I don't think Alisson's starting that game. I think I do think he's going to stick with the players who've played so far in this tournament. I don't think he's going to change it up for the final. Jurgen Klopp has never really done that, to where he usually sticks and is loyal to the players that got him there. I don't think he's going to make, which, again, if Salah's healthy, he probably would start Salah, just because the only reason Salah is probably not playing is because he's away.
Yeah.
But
that's fair, and I think that's one of the reasons why he's a really good man manager, because you could kind of not screw everyone that has gotten minutes in that competition and only in that competition. But it would be kind of a shitty thing to do, to just bench all of those guys that got you there, only just because you think that you can win with the other guys. It's almost like if you lose, at least you trusted those players that got you to that point. And if you win, then you look even better because you won a trophy and you got those guys playing time, which keeps them happy when they're not getting as much playing time in the league or whatever.
It also gives them a ton of confidence too. I feel like Klopp is really good at making the players who play for him feel bulletproof, regardless of where their talent is. I mean, your boy Darwin, I think, is a good example of that, where the whole world's raining down on him and saying all these things, and I could see Klopp consistently just like talking to him, giving him time, and now he's growing into it. He just seems to do that with players who maybe lack a little bit of confidence, and he just backs them and believes in them so much that they really start kind of believing in themselves over time. So,
all right, my confidence level 99%. There you go.
Dang.
Just because now you guys
will you be betting on the game?
I'll definitely not. I don't bet on Liverpool games, but I will say this: you guys talking about Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp, it just gives me more confidence.
I think they should
be manager.
Yeah, Klopp is just like now. When he first asked me, I'm like, man, it's tough just because, again, Chelsea that's their season and all that, but we got Jurgen Klopp, so.
Dang,
see
the amount of confidence.
Look at that, Jurgen Klopp's even giving Georgie confidence.
Dude,
Never
I will run through that wall for
you guys. You guys are obviously the favorites to win it.
Yeah.
But something about Chelsea in finals and trophy, even when they're not having a good season, that they can still manage to get some wins.
Was it the last time you two in the EFL Cup final together was the 11-10 penalty shootout?
I think so, yeah.
Kepa skied it.
It's going to be a 1-1 game. Liverpool winning pens.
I think it'll be close for sure. I definitely think it'll be one of those that could go into overtime or whatever.
Maybe we go live for that game. Watch Georgie
struggle.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on into the Copa del Rey. Barca is out. Xavi is next to be out. So Barca's out of the Copa del Rey. They're sitting. They're not super close. They're not in the title. They're not really in the title race right now.
Well, according to their whatever the guy's name is, I don't want to say the owner, Laporte or whatever, Laporta.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was saying. He's like, oh, we can still win the league. We're gonna win the league. I mean,
that'll be tough.
That would be one.
There was a lot of reports.
Comeback.
There was a lot of reports about some of the players no longer believing in Xavi and his philosophy. He said that they have objectives that they have to meet at the end of the season, and each season's been a little bit different. He said the objective for this season was to win a trophy. And then he said if he doesn't meet the objective, he is the first one that will leave.
So, wait. They didn't win the Super Copa.
Mm-hmm.
They're out of the Copa del Rey.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably not going to win the league.
So, the only other thing left... Wait.
Champions.
There's no chance.
That would be epic, huh? Against Napoli.
No way they win.
Is that who
the Champions League? Yeah.
No chance they win the Champions League. So he's out.
That's what I'm saying. So I think he's out. I think it's just a matter of time.
What if they make the Champions League final? Do they give him time?
Well, I don't know about what they're gonna do, but you said that he said
that's what he said. That the objective for this season was to win a trophy, and he would be the first one to walk out if they don't meet the objectives. So he's out.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what he's gonna go by, then.
I mean, I think he said that as one of those things of like trying to calm down the fans and say like, look, we're confident in what we're able to do. This is the objectives. But I think once it finally happens, he's not going to be the first one to say like, I'm going to step down.
Yeah,
he's going to wait for them to sack him. But like you said after the game today, he even said like, oh, they played a really good game. I'm proud of the guys. Blah 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 blah. So I think he's going to know that it's going to be up to the board, and if they choose to let him stay, depending on how far they make it in the Champions League or how close they get to winning the league, then he's gonna stay, obviously. But
I just think he's lost a lot of players in the locker room, and they just don't believe in his ways. Or
it's hard to get him back after that.
Which is
man.
Like
once
him
you lose someone, it's hard. It's so hard to get him back.
Yeah. Him and Lewandowski are, I don't know, they're not on the same page at all. So
really,
like whatever, I don't know exactly what happened. I really don't. But him and Lewandowski haven't been. I know he got subbed off early, few games, and some games he doesn't start, and I don't know. He did score that one goal, the I don't know,
Clearance off of his.
the clearance off his foot. So
Well,
I guess
Joe and I were talking about because we were watching the highlights before you got here, and they're relying a lot on this young kid, the
Yeah.
17-year-old kid,
Yeah.
right? And he missed a couple sitters, and the headlines are all he missed 2 opportunities to win them the game. But obviously, they don't show the goal that he scored where he takes
Yeah.
the ball, dribbles in, cuts in, and scores a really good goal.
Great goal.
But to me, if Barca has a lot of young, talented players, like really good players. They have Pedri, they have Gavi, and they have what's his name, Lamine Yamal.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pronounce it, to be honest.
I don't know how you pronounce
Anyway, they have young players who are good. I just wonder if that's too much of a risk that you're taking. Like Xavi's taking a huge risk on his job. If the players that are your best players that you're relying on are some of the young, like 17, 18-year-old kids.
We were talking about this earlier that when you look at the roster, they don't have the same talent that Real Madrid does. And should they be doing better? Yes, maybe, but it's not like they're that far away. If they did string some league wins together or they beat Real Madrid, all of a sudden they're within striking distance. There's still 20 games left or so and they've been missing either Gavi or Pedri or both of them for a good chunk of the season. They have had a decent amount of injuries. They brought Gundogan in. He missed some time. How many other great coaches are out there? I know you want to bring in Rafa Marquez, but how many other great coaches are out there to replace arguably one of the best players that's ever come through the club in terms of like a Barcelona legend, comes from the academy, grows up through, and I don't know. I feel like, yeah, it sucks they're not winning right now, but how many other coaches, if they were put in the same position with that team, would be getting more out of them?
Yeah, but the problem, I mean, it's not technically only him. I just think the whole Barcelona system in the past 5 years has let him down.
Yeah.
Because you see how Real Madrid has gone about their business, whereas transfers, coaches, whatever it may be, it's combining winning now with bringing in the young players to get the experience, to get the winning mentality, to become what they are now, with
and to keep winning.
To maintain that. And with Barcelona, at some point, somewhere along the lines, something fell apart because their transfers that they've made in the past 5 years, maybe longer, have been awful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even tell you, I mean, really many players that, like Griezmann came in, they didn't like him, shipped him out. Memphis came in, shipped him out.
That's what I was going to say, Memphis, yeah.
Who's the most recent one that somebody else very, very similar? Oh, and Felix. He came in.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they're gonna keep him now or not. I'm a big fan of Joao Felix, but it's like they keep bringing these players in. I don't know if it's just for the name of the player, more of how they would fit into the Barca team. And then obviously Lewandowski, one of the best strikers in the world for the past 10 or so years, and him and Xavi are not. So I don't know exactly if he's the sole reason. I just think the overall Barca way of doing things in the past 5 years has been awful, and you can't really point the finger only at him just because they did win last year. But I feel like at these teams you don't get a lot of opportunity chances. If they don't win, well, they're already out of both cups.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't think they have any chance in the Champions League, and if they're third, well, let's say fourth in La Liga, that's an awful season for Barcelona. That would be arguably one of the worst seasons in the past 20 years.
But, I mean, you're not wrong on that. It's just part of me thinks, though, that I think that they're going to finish a lot. I think they'll end up finishing second in La Liga. I just do. I think Real Madrid will win, and as the season goes on, they'll find a way to finish second. They could make a decent run in the Champions League. You never know. Home and away, these fixtures can go quick. And with all of that, like number one, who do you bring in? And to kind of to your point, like they've done so many moving parts of coaches and players and all this stuff. Like I almost think that they need to give a coach who can be steady and give him some time and try and fix the other things first, because I don't think he's the main issue.
Yeah.
Like keep him, bring in some different players if you can, offload some players, try to rebuild the squad around, because they do have some good young talent in Araujo, Xavi, Pedri, that they can really build around.
Frankie.
Frankie, yep. Like they have a good amount of young talent. Build around that. Keep him. Fix some of your other problems and try to set yourself up and understand, yeah, maybe we'll go through a year or two of not being great. We just came off of winning La Liga last year. So if we finish second or third, yeah, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. That if we can position ourselves and set ourselves up, now we can go have a run at Real Madrid. Because the other part of it is if you sack him, there's always two sides to that coin. Like they very easily could sack him, bring someone else in and get worse. Now all of a sudden, second and third, if they're falling outside of the Champions League and finishing fifth or sixth, there's a drastic difference between those two. And it could drastically change what happens at Barcelona for a long time.
I think here's a few of my thoughts on that. The first one is it's very difficult to find a manager for Barcelona because it's probably the only club in the world where in order to be a priority as a manager, as a target, you have to have some sort of experience with Barcelona. They rarely ever get a manager who did not play there, did not coach there previously, or has not had really does not have as much familiarity with the Barcelona system, because they're huge advocates about their youth system and bringing players up from the youth and their philosophy. So for me, automatically the Barcelona managerial position is the window for the amount of people that you can really get there is very small. Right now, obviously, they're saying Rafa Marquez is a really good candidate, but I just wonder if he wasn't there, do they really have any other serious candidates for it? And you've seen any time that they've tried to bring somebody from outside the club, they haven't really performed very well, to be honest. A lot of the managers since Pep left, they've had quite a few managers since Pep left. And even the ones that have, like Koeman, even the ones that do have some sort of history with Barcelona have not really worked out.
Yeah.
So that's one. That's one of the things that I would be really careful if I was the board, because I know that there's a very specific candidate that we need, and I'm not sure how many candidates there really are to fill that position. The second thing is I think they've put a little bit too much of an emphasis on their youth academy to produce players. And as good as their academy can be, there has to be a little bit of luck of just a player blooming at the right time that's going to really be a game changer, right? So they had that with Messi. They had that with Xavi, with Iniesta, with Busquets, with a lot of these guys that came through the academy. And then when they got into the first team, they were legitimate players. But all of this thing through a long period of time, it comes in waves. There's waves of good players, and then there's waves where it's like there's not that much talent out there, and then there's waves of good players again. I think, like Georgie was saying, Real Madrid's done a good job of finding youngsters, taking them through their academy, but also making sure that they always had safe options with some really experienced players that they purchased and that they bought from other places. So I think that's where Barcelona's fallen off a little bit, where you don't see too many. Like if you look at some of the players that are playing, Christensen, you're like, that's a Barcelona player right now. You would think that that's where they would have a really high-level, world-class defender that they got experience from somewhere else, and then fill in some of the other positions with some of the youngsters. I just even see some of the news around Xavi and him coming back, and so much pressure on as soon as he gets back, that's when things are going to change for us, when he's healthy. It's like, dude, you know how young this kid is, and you're expecting him to be the answer to all your problems right now?
After a big injury.
After a big injury, that's a lot of pressure that you're putting on a youngster, where that pressure should be on someone like if Lewandowski got hurt, and Lewandowski, okay, once he comes back, that's who's going to change, because you have that credibility. So I think it's a tough spot for Barca. All of that just to say that I do think Xavi has earned himself one bad season. And I know the standards are super high with Barcelona.
But what's bad?
The fact that they're out of most of the
like what finish in the league is good. There's 7 points from
I'm
second
saying
now.
top four, anywhere in the top four.
So top 4 is okay.
Below top 4, it's very hard to make an argument to keep him around.
I don't think they finish below. The only way they can finish below is right now. Girona's in first with 52 points. They have 21 games played. Real Madrid at 51 points with 20 games played. And then Barca is 7 points behind with the same amount of games as Real Madrid. And then Atletico Madrid are with 41, so 3 away from Barcelona at 4th. And then Atletico Bilbao is with 41, 3 points away from Barca. So Athletic is the only team that could potentially get in front of Barca.
Yeah.
And then you have Real Sociedad who are like 9 points behind.
So we're saying that them not winning La Liga, them crashing out of the Champions, them losing the Super Cup. So basically a trophyless season and finishing in top 4 is a failure for Xavi. However, I'm just saying I feel like he's earned that one season. And then going into next season, if they don't start very well, that's when I would sack him. Like if after 6 or 7 games, you're already in 3rd or 4th and you haven't won 5 or 6 of those games, that's when I'd be like, okay, we need to start talking about sacking. I wouldn't do it now because I think the turnaround that when he first came in, the turnaround that he had with that team, I think that kind of buys him a little bit more time.
It is crazy to think, looking at they've only lost 2 games in La Liga too.
Yeah.
Where
Girona's on a different level, man. They're playing really well.
Yeah.
Girona's playing really well. So I don't know. I would like for him to be there a little bit longer, and I think everyone's so quick to just want to sack the manager. Oh, he's not. They're not getting results. It's the manager. I'll tell you. Compare. So here's my other theory with that. Actually, I forgot. Omar Barada was there up until around 2016, and that's when Manchester City scooped him up from Barcelona. So he was there for most of the successful period of Barcelona, and then that's why Manchester City wanted him, and then they took him. After around 2016 is when you can start saying that they started having some
start to decline, bad decisions, spending a lot of money on players that didn't fit the system.
Now, your boy Pep said in a statement that if Manchester United fans think that one person is going to change everything, let them think that or whatever. But a person like that is so influential in all of the decision-making process that, it is a big factor because he has a lot of the final say on who they're buying, who they're selling, and all of that. So
like one person doesn't solve it all, but it is like, to your point, he's a catalyst of change. I mean, look at Pep at Manchester City. One person didn't change it, but that then creates the ripple effect of everything else.
The problem with Barcelona, looking at their schedule, they play Girona away, Real Madrid away, Atletico Madrid away, Atletico Bilbao away. All the
top teams
are all away.
And
so
to be honest, their performances right now are, like Joe was saying, like they could still do well in the Champions, but you're just hoping. Like they haven't shown that they'll do well. If you had to guess where they're going, there's not going to be very far in the Champions. But you never know. Anyway, my boy Rafa Marquez still waiting in the wings. Just waiting for the phone call.
To be honest, the one good thing about the Champions League is they're playing Napoli, who are not doing well either. Yeah. So that's a good thing, I guess, for the whole Barca.
Let's go to Madrid versus Almeria. Dude, I watched this game, or I didn't watch this game. I watched that. We were just watching the highlights right now just to catch up on everything. And the amount of corruption in this game for Real Madrid is crazy. Where do you even start?
I mean,
I almost feel like you have to start at the end and work backwards. Like start with Vinny's goal. I'll put it in air quotes. I'll let you have this one. You watched it live.
I watched it live, and I just felt bad for Almeria because it's like not only are you one of the worst teams in the Liga, but to go to Real Madrid, to the Bernabeu, score 2 goals, and be in the lead, and like everything's going your way, just for the first decision, which is a penalty in the 54th minute. So you hold off Real Madrid scoreless for 54 minutes, just for. Look, it hits his hand. There's no question about that. However, the guy gets pushed from Joselu from behind. So again, it went to VAR. They looked at it. I mean, this is the VAR segment. We're gonna get. Wait, is this the VAR segment or is this not?
This is the VAR. We're in the VAR segment now.
This is the VAR. How in the world are you gonna call a penalty when the guy gets pushed and puts his hand out? There's no way the guy's gonna get pushed and his arms are gonna stay like this. It's impossible.
Like what can he do?
There's literally nothing you can do. And there's 2 fouls on the play. The 2 Almeria center backs are getting pushed from the 2 attack. Well, Rudiger and in front of the guy who actually handled the ball, and then Joselu pushing the guy off. So I have no idea how that was a penalty.
So I have a problem with the fact that, 1, it should have been a foul, clearly. 2, I'm sick and tired of this like arm in a natural position argument, because they say, oh yeah, his arms is out wide. How do you jump? Like, nobody jumps like a fish out of water. Like, nobody jumps straight up with their arms to their side. You use your arms for balance when you jump. And most of the time it doesn't hit your hand, but how are you're jumping up, the guy behind you straight up pushes you, so your natural reaction is to stretch your arms out a little bit for balance. Yeah. And because he pushed you, he essentially pushes your arm into the ball. Yeah. Because the ball comes in and he pushes him into his arm, or in the ball into his arm, and the referee goes and calls it a penalty.
But also,
the ref didn't call it a penalty, right? VAR came back after.
Well, they looked. I don't know.
Well, right, but like ultimately the decision was a penalty.
The VAR referee.
I don't even think so. Now I'm questioning myself, but I don't think it hit him anywhere on the forearm, right? It was like more the bicep area. It wasn't.
It was like the elbow. It looked like the elbow and up, somewhere around the elbow and up.
So from going from here, calling that a penalty, and then Vinny scoring that
Very
goal
similarly.
To where it probably hits his arm at around very similar
the
level.
bicep tricep area.
And the difference between the two is what it's the defender's like, he's, to your guys' point, he's being pushed, he's going like this, his arms flailing kind of away from the ball. The ball's flying this way and his arm's kind of following it that way. And then you look at Vinny's, it's the exact opposite. The ball's coming at him and he's throwing his arm at the ball, which was a great finish. Yeah, just nice little chip arm shot over the keeper, but it's...
And it did go to VAR. They multiple angles looked at it and then gave it a goal. I mean, I don't know. It's just...
Well, I think they need to, first of all, they need to rewrite the rule about your arm in a national position, because if you're standing, you don't need your arms out by your sides. If you're standing, you've seen it when the defenders defend, they put their arms behind their back and they move like that because they want to be extra careful. However, that rule no longer applies, or that phrase no longer applies when you're in the air, because when you're in the air, you have to use your arms for balance.
Especially with contact.
Yeah, but so that's one of those things that needs to be changed. But I'm surprised that there was a couple of things in that they could have called, and they went around all of that just to give Real Madrid the penalty. Yeah. And then Vinicius. The thing is, it's not like he gets pushed into the ball, or it's not like you can clearly see it's a shoulder. And for me, it's the follow through. It's literally like this guy has his arm out here. It hits his arm. And in order for him to redirect it with a little bit more power, he like pushes his arm off so that the ball goes and somehow scores the goal. So,
and also something that I don't know if, like, watching the replay, as soon as I got here, once you guys are watching it, Vinny was going one-on-one against the defender outside on the corner of the box. And then the guy tackled or whatever. Vinny fell to the ground. It hit his bicep when the ball bounced. Then he crossed it, went all the way to the far side. Then it was crossed back, and that's when he scored. So if we're looking at the whole entire play, there's 2 times it could have been called off. But I mean,
all right, so let's get into the underlying question here. Out of this whole thing, do you seriously believe? So this is VAR segment into the conspiracy theory segment. Do you believe that Real Madrid had some sort of previous arrangement with the referees, with the FA, like the organization, that they needed to have calls in favor to win this match? Or do you think it was just the pressure got to the referees? They're at the Bernabeu, and they need to make some calls for Real Madrid. Otherwise, they're going to get absolutely destroyed by the Real Madrid's mobsters.
Yeah, I think the second one. I mean, I don't think Real Madrid had... Look, the thing, the whole entire thing, the worst part of this is the worst team in Liga, Almeria. like if it's come like it came to that 99th minute that they scored the third goal to end up winning it. So just the fact that it got that far into it, and for the referees to be a huge part, because let's remember they took a goal away from Almeria as well for Jude Bellingham, which, to be fair, we can know like he did.
That was less controversial.
That was,
for sure.
yeah, less controversial.
It just makes it a lot worse,
Right.
like we talked about before, because of everything else. So if you're Almeria, you definitely feel like, what else can you do? You scored 2 goals away at Real Madrid, and you hold them off until the 55th minute, and then the referees just I mean, you're talking about 2 VAR decisions, 3 with their goal. So that's
So you're saying that the
thing.
referees just crumbled under the pressure
Yeah.
and started making calls in favor of Real
Yeah.
Madrid because that was the safer option.
But let's be honest. If you no matter what league, no matter what team you are, if it's one of the top teams in the league playing against one of the lower teams, you're for the most part you're gonna get some benefits of the calls. It's just like in the NBA. If you're a vet, if you're LeBron James, you're gonna get a lot more calls than a rookie. It's very, very similar in terms of how that works. Is it fair? No, but it's just how it works. However, this game, that was way like
That was very apparent.
it was comical. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
were laughing obviously as we were rewatching the replays.
I couldn't believe it. I thought,
It
I
was-
mean,
So, Joe, do you think there was some serious corruption, or do you think it was what Georgie's saying?
I don't think there was serious corruption as much as it is just coincidental favoritism towards the top clubs. You disagree with that?
Absolutely.
It seems like you
And I'll
think
tell you
there's
why.
100% corruption. It
Yes,
seems like.
I'll tell you why. Because now with the VAR, multiple people have to be in agreement to do this. So like before, where it was just the referee and the 2 linesmen, it all fell on the referee. Now with the added benefit of video review and cameras, you don't have, like, I get it. There's a lot of pressure because you're in the middle of the game and you're a referee. But it doesn't take, if you polled people and it was neutral and you just said, what is the right call in this situation, you'd probably get, I would say, at least 80% to give you the right call, which the first one should have been a foul and not a handball, and the Vinicius one should have been called a handball. To me, I still don't get under this much, even under this much pressure, how they can't, out of the 5 or 6 people involved in this decision, they somehow all decided to go with the one that gives you the most controversy because it is Real Madrid. So I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching it by saying that there's some controversy, but I do definitely think there's a lot of things that go on behind the
just
scenes.
say how it is, man. You just accuse Real Madrid of.
I think I told you guys this on the podcast last time. I was watching the documentary with the Italian referees, or the Italian corruption on Juventus. And there was a referee that made a decision that was the right decision, but they threatened him so much afterwards because of the amount of power that Juventus and the president of Juventus had with the TV networks that they essentially ruined this guy's career. The referee organization made an apology afterwards for this guy's call, even though it was the right call, just to get Juventus to calm down because of all the threats and all of it. They had, like, imagine.
So you think that's like?
So I think that's what they're scared of, is what I'm saying. I think that's what they're scared of, that there's some people behind the scenes that maybe aren't directly related to Real Madrid people, but are somewhat related to Real Madrid people under this whole thing, that can threaten these referees and make them feel like, you know,
Got to change
something's off.
any questionable call goes the way of, because that's what
Yeah.
I guess those ones weren't even really questionable.
But that's the rule, though. Like, any questionable call, put it in favor of Real
Real
Madrid.
Madrid.
That way we live to referee another day. So it's pretty apparent, man. Like, the coach on the sideline for Almeria is going fucking mental. Georgie said he was naked by the end of the game because he keeps taking off an article of clothing every bad decision.
And then he got the red card.
And then he got the red
You could
card.
tell he didn't even know what to say. Like, there's like certain times in life I feel like we were speechless, and he was walking out. He didn't even know what to complain, because
So
it was unbelievable.
I'm trying to find the quote from Barcelona's owner, because he
said something about it.
talked about this game.
So here's my last question with this, I guess. At what point do you have your team walk off the pitch? because you could tell. So nowadays, all of the managers and all the coaches, they have the game being played on their iPad right on the bench. So they can see a few seconds before it happens or after it happens, they can see the replays and everything, so that when it goes to VAR, they have an idea instead of just kind of relying on the referees. So they all know what they feel should be the right call. So it makes them even more upset when they're going through this and they're watching the replays and they're watching the VAR, and at the end of the day, or at the end of the call, it's not the right decision. At what point do you say, fuck this, this is clear corruption, you cannot play a game, a fair game, we're going to take our players off the pitch and we're going to walk out?
I don't know if you can as a professional. Like, because the way I look at it, if you're a coach, obviously you're a career coach, that's your career now. If you do that, I think what club would bring you on after that?
Yeah, but if you're the board and you're the owner, how pissed off are you at this whole situation?
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
I just wonder. I'm sure some of these boards, like we've seen those videos of like the owners going on,
the Brazilian owner going down and banging on the door.
Yeah. So I think they would probably feel the same way. Like, we can't. It's not a fair playing field. We got to get our players off the field if that's the case, because the script is written for you to lose the match. But there are obviously sanctions and fines from the league that you're going to get, suspensions and point deductions and stuff, which is probably why they don't do it. But I think there needs to be something needs to be done when these kind of things happen.
That one, I mean, if you're ever going to get close to it, I feel like that game is as close as you'll probably get without it being blatantly clear that there's corruption. Because I think, like, you could make the argument, that was close, this was close. But
he was pretty calm too. He was just taking off his jacket left and right. But he was pretty. I would have been on the field. So
yeah, he was fuming. But
what'd
you find, Georgie?
The Barca's owner said what happened to Bernabeu was a disgrace. I think the refereeing collective has to respond to a series of pressures that have occurred throughout the season with the referees. Whatever that means. I mean, he's pissed, obviously.
Yeah, but the thing is, the other thing is that they're always pissed.
And
when
then
it affects them, and then it helps them.
Exactly.
And then they're backing the referees. We have to accept the referees' decisions and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I as much as I like my boy Arteta, he's one of the worst people when it comes to flip flopping about the referees, because the moment it benefits us, you have to trust the referees. It's a hard job.
Yeah.
And the next moment, it's a disgrace. This is a disgrace.
Listen,
they're all just selling, trying to.
Listen, you can't tell.
They're all playing the game.
Every time you guys bring up Arteta, there's only one thing that goes
here we go.
That's the only thing.
Please make Georgie's face there the thumbnail for this video.
All right, and then just in another update, this is kind of old news now, but your boy Salah, they found out it's initially worse than they originally thought. However, they do believe that if Egypt makes it to the final, he can go back and play. So he left the AFCON to go back to England to receive medical treatment. The old Egyptian captain, one of the old Egyptian players, said that he should have stayed there with his team.
Yeah.
And that he's not a true Egyptian or something like that. And why would he go bail out on his team? He's the captain or whatever, right? He's one of the leaders of the team. And Jurgen Klopp responded and said he came back because the medical treatment is just better. It's a smarter move than him staying there and not getting the right treatment. And he also said that if they do make it to the final, he'll be there as long as everything goes well.
I don't understand how you can question Mo Salah's loyalty to Egypt.
Yeah,
the guys literally brought, I don't want to say Egypt to where they are, but
you brought him to a World Cup.
Like, he's the main player.
Yeah.
He's not only the main player for Egypt, but one of the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. So for somebody to question his loyalty to the team or how serious he is about the African Cup of Nations, it's just insane to me. And besides that, if you of course you're gonna go back to England to get treatment. You have one of the top facilities in the world, top doctors, top people to take care of you.
Top dentists.
Top dentist.
Top dentist for sure.
If you are trying to get back to play for Egypt for the final or whatever they make it to,
go back to England.
You have to go back to England.
Like,
if you're gonna stay with the team, you're not gonna get the treatment.
Right.
Even one of their doctors, the club or the country's doctor said, we don't have the stuff that England have. Like we don't have the facilities, we don't have the technology. So if you want to get healthy as soon as possible, that's what you do.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. And I don't know why you would even question that. It's insane to me that people are even questioning loyalty or where he wants to be and all that. When they tied, I think I was messaging it during that game, didn't I? When Egypt tied last second and they got scored on, and then they ended up losing, but then they still qualified because the other game finished 2-2. He was like, at one point he was crying on the bench because they were out. And then all of a sudden, I think the other team scored. He was on his phone. He saw it. He started celebrating. He's like happy. So I don't know how people can question. It's just insane to me.
I could understand like if it was the end of the season, and he doesn't have another season going on and there's no chance he comes back for the final and it's like, hey, stay with the team and cheer him on. Okay.
Yeah.
But like this is in the middle of January, obviously, so he has another season to worry about. But also, too, if he wants to come back, to your point, he has to go back.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing. They're also, like, if they make it to the final, he'll be back for the final. And I think that's the most important thing, is get healthy so that if there is a chance of you playing in the final, if we make it, you should be there.
Yeah.
So, all right, transfer window segment. Once again, slightly quiet, but there is a big one. West Ham. Listen, Calvin Phillips on loan from Manchester City to West Ham. I wonder if some clubs just forgot that he is a player that they should think about getting, just because he's like, nobody knows where he's been for the last 2 years or whatever it is that he's been.
I was going to say 6 months, but.
So, how do you rate that signing for West Ham?
10 out of 10. It's absolutely amazing. I think he's it's a perfect club for him to go into and fit like the system that they have and with the players they have. And I think he's going to be a Jesse Lingard situation where he was struggling in Manchester United. He wasn't getting playing time and his confidence was low. He went to West Ham, balled out, pretty much one of the best players in those 6 months that he played for West Ham. And then obviously then he went to like Forest for the money. But I think this is going to hopefully get his career back on track. And then hopefully he leaves Manchester City in the summer and he just gets his career back on track because I think he's a really good player. I don't know what the reasons are he's not playing at Manchester City. I know Pep is really strict on certain things and he wants certain things done in order to be on the field. But I think Calvin Phillips is a really good player, and I think a lot, like you said, a lot of teams missed out on amazing opportunity to whether you're. I don't think you would have went to a relegation battle team, but if you're any team in the relegation battle, you're thinking like if we can get Calvin Phillips in, he could save us hundreds of millions by just staying in the Premier League. So for a team like West Ham, who are challenging potentially to be, I don't want to say top 4, but obviously that's their goal, it's a huge boost. So I think it's a great move, 10 out of 10. Good for West Ham and good for Calvin Phillips.
Joe?
I think it's a great replacement, obviously, for what they lost in Declan Rice. And I was surprised at how well West Ham has been doing already with losing Declan Rice. Now I think adding Calvin Phillips could help them get over the hump and not push for top 4 qualification, but solidify them in a Europa League or Conference League spot for the foreseeable future. And I guess the only thing that's concerning to me is we haven't really seen him in a while. That without quality game time, will he be up to speed for what he needs in the Prem? I would assume so because I can't imagine the practices at Manchester City are easy, but at the same time, it's not a game. So from a match fitness standpoint and things like that, who knows where he'll be, but I mean, he's a pro, so I think he'll be able to figure it out, but it will be interesting to see him go play 90 minutes here, probably coming up pretty soon because I would assume he's going to slide into the squad pretty quickly, assuming he looks good in training. So, but I think it'll be great for him, and hopefully he can get back to
and I don't know the
top player.
I don't know the details, but I wonder if he does well. Do you think they'll be looking to get him on a permanent deal, or is this just strictly on loan?
It's a strict loan.
Yeah, there's no requirement to buy.
Yeah,
but I wonder if you're West Ham, that's a legitimate signing. That if you could keep around for a few years, it's gonna help you. Like Joe said, become one of those teams that is consistently getting at least Europa League or Europa League Conference. However, because I'm an Arsenal fan, it bothers me a little bit the fact that we probably could have gotten him to help us out.
Yep.
But we would never have really gotten him because Manchester City would never have loaned him out to us because we're contending for the title.
Let's say they're stopped. I think they'll stop doing business with us.
Yeah, I mean right now at least in the
we
summer it's a little bit easier, but in the January transfer window when you're competing for the league, I don't think Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, Aston Villa would have been any of the teams that Manchester City would have wanted to do that business deal with.
Yeah.
Calvin Phillips, it's a loan deal with an option to make it permanent.
There you go.
Wow. I don't know what
that's a really good deal then.
That's a great deal.
Yeah.
That makes it even better. I didn't know there's an option.
I just wonder how high his wages are.
Yeah.
Because West Ham obviously doesn't have as much money.
Let's
Good
see.
thing is that his transfer market value has decreased so much.
Yeah, so much.
So like his wages and all of that stuff should be a lot lower than when he went to Manchester City because they spent a crap ton of money.
$140,000 a week.
That's not bad.
Not bad, but not cheap.
Phillips' entire $140,000 a week wages will supposedly be covered by West Ham,
There you go.
who have also paid Manchester City a loan fee to secure the midfielder. So they paid.
They really want him.
Yeah.
That's not a bad.
No, that's great. That's great.
Considering how much some of these guys are making in the Premier League right now.
And he moved City bought him for $45 million. So there's no way he'll be anywhere near. Well, he shouldn't be anywhere near that now because he hasn't played.
Yeah.
So look, if you told me you can buy Calvin Phillips for $25, $30 million, it's a no-brainer.
It's a steal. Yeah. All right. Victor Osimhen. Did you see what he said?
I don't.
Joe, tell us what he said, Joe.
He came out. There's a video online of him talking about how he's committed to Napoli until the end of the season, but he knows where he wants to play after that, and it's just a matter of a time until he announces it. Where do you two think he's going?
That's very interesting.
I mean, he didn't say so. First of all, he didn't say he was gonna leave. He said, "I know what I like." He said the phrasing was different. I don't think he said I know where I'm going. He said, "I know where I will play next season," right? So he kind of leaves it open, so he's not like people automatically like, "Oh yeah, he's gone for good." He's leaving though. That's what he's saying by that statement. He's leaving. I just don't know which team do you think has agreed on personal terms. It's probably just personal terms at this point. Which team do you think has agreed on personal terms with him? I would say Arsenal could be in the mix because we're looking for somebody in his position. Do you guys think he's coming to the Premier League?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So who'd you say, Georgie?
I can see Chelsea going from. It just fits. I think. It fits in terms of Chelsea just buying the whole entire world.
But they do have a little bit of a striker issue because Nkunku keeps getting injured.
Yep.
Nicholas Jackson is inconsistent.
Is not what they need, yeah.
And right now they're just relying on Cole Palmer.
Yeah.
And he is not an out-and-out striker. He's just scoring a lot of goals at the moment. So it does make sense that they'd be interested in his services.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's how much would he cost? That's the problem. And what teams would be able to afford him? That's why I said Chelsea, because they're willing to spend
65, 70?
Can they spend the money though?
That's
with financial fair play.
That's the thing.
It's you have to meet all of it. So who needs him? Who can afford him? Actually has the money, and who can afford him and still.
Would this be the first signing of the new Manchester United evolution?
They have Højlund.
They do have Højlund.
I'm telling you guys right now, Manchester United.
You think so?
I'm scared, man.
I think Manchester United is going to be.
Those guys don't mess around.
Yeah.
They said, so getting off topic a little bit, but I saw that they were talking about Ineos and their philosophy, and they said that they should, and part of why they brought Barada was they said that the focus should be to try and take the players out of the equation as much as possible. So don't leave it to the players, the success of the club. Build everything else to the point where your system is so well organized and the machine is running so smoothly that the players won't affect
what happens.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how, like,
which is difficult to do, to be honest.
It's kind of what Sir Alex Ferguson did. Not that he had bad players, but if you look at some of the starting 11s he put out there and would whoop on teams, Arsenal being one of them at the time, like he did a lot with very little because he had such a great system and process.
But they said about their philosophy would be taking a look at the players on the roster and offloading any player who has not performed to a certain level about a year and a half. So if any player is there and in a year and a half time they haven't been performing, has to go. Player has to go. They do not keep those types of players around.
Pep has been doing at City.
Basically, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons why they got him, because that philosophy has worked. Because you think about how many players through the Manchester United roster in the last few years have not performed well and are still on the roster. So Harry Maguire, Martial.
I mean, the whole entire.
Even Rashford, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like all of those guys, according to that system, would have been sold and a new player would have been brought in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they're trying to do with the takeover.
That is scary if they start doing that, because they do have the money and they're spending on terrible transfers so far. But if they do get it right. But anyway, back to where he can go. It's either Manchester United, Chelsea, or Arsenal. He's not going to Spurs. He's not going to Liverpool. He's not going to Man City.
Yeah. Liverpool aren't going to want to pay as much for the fact they already have a few strikers in there.
Unless they don't need him.
So they don't need him.
They've got Gakpo and Darwin.
Tottenham.
That was the one I was potentially thinking as well. Could be Tottenham because they don't have an out-and-out striker.
I just don't.
I don't see him going to Tottenham.
I just don't see him fitting with
what they're doing.
Like, it's all.
He doesn't play a high enough line.
They do. Yeah, they need like 10 more players to put on that line.
Yeah, I think
it's United or Arsenal. Really, I guess Chelsea too. I hadn't thought about Chelsea.
I would say United and Chelsea are the front runners. I think Arsenal would be like one of those teams that are monitoring him just because they already have. They're probably looking at Isak. They're probably looking at Tony. They're probably looking at Benzema. I don't think Osimhen is. He's probably in that mix, but I don't think Arsenal's like, we need to get him now. Whereas Chelsea, that would probably be a guy that they'd want to get right away. Like he'd be their primary target. I think Arsenal has a few guys in front of him right now, which is why maybe that wouldn't.
Speaking of Benzema, did you see what came out today?
No, what happened?
Potential return to Real Madrid. Ancelotti said he would love to take him back. However, Perez came out and said no chance.
Who came out and said no
PSG?
chance?
Florentino.
Oh, Perez.
Yeah.
Just said
no
Perez.
chance.
Yeah. By the way, have you seen that video of again off topic? Have you seen that video of Ronaldo walking into the Bernabeu and Fiorentino Perez is waiting for him? It's an old video, and Fiorentino Perez there like shaking hands of the players as they walk in or whatever. And he shakes Ronaldo's hands, and then he's like, "What did you say to the media? What did you say?" And then Ronaldo's like freaking out, and he's like, "You and me have to have a conversation." And then Ronaldo just kind of like, "Oh shit." I was like, "Dude, can you imagine if the president says that to you? Like, you and I have to have a conversation." Oh my god, I hate having that feeling, knowing that like you're about to get. I don't know, but anyway, off topic.
This man's talking about Ronaldo.
Off topic. Anyway, let's get back into it. So he said at the end of the season he's gonna announce where he's going. So a little bit of suspense there.
Suspense, yeah.
I mean, he hasn't had a good season so far.
No, not as good as last season.
Yeah.
I also think we'll know a little bit more on where he's going. Give it a week from today, once the transfer window closes.
Yeah.
We'll know like who's gotten a striker and who hasn't. Because if Arsenal go pick up Isak, Arsenal's probably out. If Chelsea pick up somebody, so.
The other one that we were talking about that we were kind of making fun of last time was Trippier going to Bayern Munich, and the Bayern CEO has said that's not happening.
Well, the Newcastle, they're not letting him go, right?
Yeah, deal's off, not for sale.
So was it because Newcastle's not letting him go?
Yeah,
that's what I read. At least I don't know if it's true or not. But
interesting.
Which means they have to offload someone else.
Yeah,
Bayern's going to turn into the Manchester United of the Bundesliga.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean
the moment I'll tell you, it all went downhill. The moment that they sacked Nagelsmann and hired.
I thought you were gonna say once they signed Harry Kane.
Can you imagine Harry Kane, Eric Dyer?
Harry Kane's actually a great signing. The guy's breaking records and like scoring a bunch of goals. It's a good signing. I think
he did that at Tottenham.
They're just not. They're not performing as a team, and they have.
Get rid of
They're
Tuchel.
unlucky that
the best team in
Bayer Leverkusen is playing the way that they're
Yeah.
playing.
And Bayern just lost at home.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah.
And Leverkusen just signed a striker,
Yep.
Iglesias.
Enrique.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Performs at halftime as well.
So that's again, transfer window's kind of quiet, man. It's been. I was so we were all so excited about the transfer window. Like, oh, what's gonna happen?
Nothing's happened.
I'm like scrolling through Fabrizio Romano's Instagram page, and I'm just like,
No,
don't
you're
know any of
scrolling
these
through like
people.
random ass fan pages
Yeah,
trying to.
yeah,
What was the
just-
Elisa?
Even you know what's funny on that one that he said? If you go back and look at the comments, all the Man United fans like, come on, man, not another one. That you
yeah,
just
I knew it was
made
a fan account. I knew it was a fan account,
Yeah.
so it's not like but I'm just typically, even with the fan accounts, there's some sort of
Yeah,
Truth.
something-
Some of
truth
them,
to the
yeah.
rumors
Yeah.
that it's not like just some guy who just decided, oh, you know what, Elise is going to
make it,
Manchester
yeah.
United or whatever. So
I mean, he might end up going there. at
This
some point.
last, I really think this last week's gonna be crazy. Maybe that's wishful thinking from me, but
hard, man, to get all that
The
stuff done.
reason why I think all of this is slow is because teams saw what happened with Everton, and they're like, we're not going to risk it. If it's too close for financial fair play or something that we can't spend X amount of money. Because what was it, a year, 2 years ago, it was like 800 million spent in January. Now we're at barely 50.
it's crazy.
It's insane
Yeah.
the difference of money that,
And most clubs cannot afford point deductions.
yeah,
Yeah.
nobody's
Nobody
willing
can.
to take the risk.
Yeah.
It wouldn't make sense.
And no one has a bunch of no one has a player or two that they can offload for a decent amount to then go
And get somebody else.
and get somebody else.
That's what makes this West Ham deal even better. It's a loan, and you're not doing really anything else. You're just adding a little bit of wages.
Do you think there will be any loans that'll come through towards the end? If
I can see more loans. I mean, I don't know.
It's
Isn't
so
interesting.
it's so crazy how many things have to go right for a transfer to work out. I think I got this from the Leeds documentary. Did they do was it an All or Nothing with Leeds, or was it a different type of documentary?
yeah, with Bielsa when they were
Yeah.
in the championship, right?
Or
And
Dan James.
and yeah, so one of the guy who's in charge of the footballing operations and all these transfers and everything, he's like, well, first of all, you have to see if there's any interest from the player. Then you have to see if there's if the club is okay with it, the possibility, and then you have to talk to their manager, and then you have to talk to the agent. Sorry, and then you have to do that on both sides of the teams, and all of these people have to agree to everything. So he's like, so it's not just it's not just agreeing terms with the player, and he's like, there's so much that needs to go on that most of the time when you're talking about these transfers, at some point in that. And all those steps, something breaks down.
Yeah, it falls apart.
But yeah, so that situation with Danny James is, where was he at before?
Swansea.
He was at Swansea, right?
Yeah.
So he's at Swansea. They get him to go all the way to Leeds. It's deadline day. So they're like, it's late at night, it's deadline day. And they get him all the way to Leeds. He starts signing his contract, like the pretend contract or whatever that he's going to sign for media or all of this paperwork. And they're pretty sure that the deal is going to go through. And he doesn't know what's going on. He's just there, and he's there with his agent, and he's assuming he's already a player for Leeds. And like the clock is ticking, and then they start getting worried, and it gets to the point where essentially time expired because Swansea was not quick enough with their paperwork, or they were like purposely kind of trying to delay the deal, or something was going on.
Wasn't it there? I don't know if it was Leeds owner or Swansea's owner.
Swansea's owner.
They weren't answering, or they were asleep, or something weird was happening.
They just weren't like they weren't getting.
or like couldn't.
They weren't getting the paperwork back in time.
Yeah.
It's like a day you can't fall asleep. Deadline day if you own a
It's
football
crazy.
club.
And so the guy is there, poor guy. So the guy is there, and then they have to go and tell him, like, I'm sorry, but this didn't go through.
You got to go home.
You got to go back. You're done. Like
But I think it was even released to the media in terms of like Swansea fans knew about it too. So can you imagine, like, you're at Leeds, you think you're going to sign for Leeds, and you got to go back to your old team in front of your fans that you just pretty much, they know you're
left
trying to
them.
leave, and then like step on the field.
And then he went to Manchester United though.
Yep.
He did.
And
then
then I don't know.
And then he was back at Leeds.
And then he was back at Leeds.
And then he's back at actually where he was supposed to be, Leeds, in the first place.
Is he at Leeds right now?
Yeah. He actually scored over the last weekend.
I was about to say where is he, because I haven't seen
Yeah,
much
he's at Leeds.
Down the
since
championship.
that.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it for the transfer window. Let's get into the wild card segment. All right, who's better? Simple. Simple. I'll ask you guys one at a time here. All right. Who should we start with? Joe, Georgie? Who should I start with?
Joe.
Throw me this time, I guess. Okay.
All right. I'll ask you both the question because I'm
Do we
curious.
have the same? Do we have the same
I'm curious to see your answers.
people?
Do-
Okay.
Like, is it the same question?
For both
For
of
both
us?
of you, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
We'll go through each one of you. All right. So Joe.
Yeah.
Ronaldinho or Zidane?
Come on,
Oh
man.
my God. Who's
This is like
so? The
prime.
question is not who I like more.
Who's better? That's the question. Who's better?
That doesn't help.
I mean, I hate saying that. I mean, Zidane. I have to go with Zidane.
As you're wearing the
As I'm wearing a France jersey, obviously, I think that part plays a little bit into it. But
Georgie.
do I have to explain why? Or
I mean,
just,
you can if you want. Yeah, go ahead. It's hard to explain, isn't it?
Yeah, because I loved watching. You probably picked two of my favorite people as a young kid, like who I loved watching play. I really liked France. I really liked Zidane. I think I identify more with how Zidane plays than Ronaldinho. But I one of my first memories of watching a game was the 1998 World Cup and Zidane with his brace in the final. But yeah, Zidane. I have to go with Zidane, and I hate you for asking me that question.
Georgie.
Well, no, that's tough. Probably Zidane, just because. Well, it's hard though because you.
It's like a terrible.
Like, you look at Zidane at Real Madrid, amazing. You look at Ronaldinho at Barcelona, amazing. But Ronaldinho's time was a shorter period compared to
Yeah.
Zidane's.
That's what I was gonna say.
Zidane's timeline
Longevity.
and big time moments in terms of like World Cups, headbutts. No, I mean, yeah. So
All right. Interesting.
Zidane, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Who
I
was
love
your
Ronaldinho.
answer?
That's a funny one because I would say Zidane. I would say Zidane's got a greater impact on the overall game. I would say Ronaldinho. Ronaldinho's a special type of player, he was successful. But I for the most part, it's just because of the longevity of Zinedine Zidane,
Yeah.
the consistency
Yeah.
of Zidane. But it's a hard question to answer just because you want to say Ronaldinho.
Yeah, you do.
You want to say Ronaldinho, but you're also like, you want to be honest, and the truth is probably Zidane is overall.
I mean, World
a
Cups.
better player.
They both won a World Cup though, because Ronaldinho won in 2002.
Yeah, but I
both
feel-
won Champions League.
Yeah, but Ronaldinho wasn't the main.
I feel like
that team went in 2002. Everyone was the main.
yeah.
That was with Ronaldinho,
but that was
Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Kaká.
Yeah.
Man, what a team!
All
My
right.
God.
It's unreal that
next
was all.
next one.
Roberto Carlos, I think, was on that team still.
Next one. Georgie, I already know your answer, but I'm just gonna.
This
ask,
is about
I'm gonna
to
start
be-
with you. Pep
Oh my God. Or club? Are you kidding
or
me?
Sir Alex?
Ooh.
Oh.
Next, I wasn't gonna ask you Klopp because that's a stupid question to ask you.
You should have asked him that one. I would be interested to hear what he'd say.
Sir Alex.
All right.
Wow.
Any explanation? Or you just
Pep needs money. Sir Alex, well, he had money too. However, I feel like Sir Alex, with the team that he had, certain players on the team would have never started on any other team. And he still won for years. And he was going far into Champions Leagues and whatnot. So, based on that, I'm going to go with Sir Alex.
Joe.
Pep. Because he's done it in England. He did it in Germany. He's done it in Spain. Yes, he spends money. But I also think when you look at some of the players, he has great players. But I also think that Pep really, really elevates a lot of those players. And I know we talked earlier about, and I wanted to mention this while we were talking a little bit about Barcelona. He spent a lot of time with the younger teams at Barcelona and coached a lot of those players when they were kids. That, like, is it the reason why Barcelona was so good and Xavi was so good and Iniesta was so good for so long? Probably not. They were going to be great either way. However, we have to credit some of that to him in terms of what he did with a lot of those players over an extended period of time. So I'd say Pep just because he's done it in more places. With that being said, Sir Alex did more with less. But Pep is the GOAT.
Interesting.
What are you going to say?
Picking?
I'm going to go with Pep. Maybe it's a personal preference. But the reason why this one's difficult is because even though they're both managers, it's almost like comparing a center back to a forward.
Yeah,
in
because
terms
the
of
times.
the times, but also their impact on the game. Like Sir Alex Ferguson has probably revolutionized. Maybe that's not the right word, but the thing he was most known for was his man management skills and his skills to develop an organization that could perform at its highest level. Not necessarily anything to do with tactics or the way that he developed players. It was more so he knew how to put 11 really good players or not really good players. They were all really good players, but like in terms of what they did and win games and do it, not just win one final with those players, but do it over such a long period of time and build a dynasty that way, that he teaches courses now at the university, at like a university of like, I can't remember which one it is.
Like leadership or
it's
something?
Like Harvard or
Yeah,
something
he
like
did
that, where he teaches a course on leadership and all of that. Pep is known less for his man management skills and more for the way he changed the game from a tactical perspective. And because of how he introduced new concepts, that's why I think he's revolutionized the game in that way. So it's hard to compare them because they've done two completely different things for the game. But I just think Pep has changed the game more so than Sir Alex changed the game. Not that Sir Alex isn't as good as Pep, but just they're very different. But I just think Pep has completely changed the way we analyze the game.
So right now, if you're starting out a team, you're the owner, you're the chairman, and you had to pick Jurgen Klopp or Pep, who are you picking?
How much money do I have?
So that's what it comes down to. Who are you picking?
Xavi Alonso.
That's a good one, but he's not in this question.
There's a lot more factors. There's a lot more factors.
Yeah.
I'd take Pep.
But you can't go wrong with either of them. It also depends. It also depends too, I think, what club you are running. If you're running a club like Newcastle or Liverpool or like a club that has a lot of history, I'd take Klopp. But if I'm picking just a random club,
if you're picking like a PSG or Man City that has unlimited resources,
well, I think one of the strengths of Klopp is that he does a really good job, similar to Sir Alex Ferguson, of getting a culture around the city and like building the team around what the people will buy into.
Yeah,
you know, and getting the whole club to work as a collective unit, opposed to just, hey, let me get the great players, let me teach them the tactics and do those things. It's actually one of the things that I am surprised about, bringing it back to Arsenal, that Arteta has done a great job with Arsenal, is getting the fans really bought back into the team and making the Emirates like a great place to play. I think part of the reason why Liverpool's done so well under Klopp, and if you look at the two teams that he's really, with Dortmund, same thing. Everyone was crazy bought in. It was a hard place to play. Anfield's a hard place to play. So I think that plays a role into it too on what the club is.
So Jurgen Klopp is the best overall, yeah.
Listen, somehow Georgie
has the best teeth, yes.
Somehow Georgie managed to find a way to put Klopp into the conversation. All right, next one.
Oh,
there's more.
there's only two.
This is the trick.
There's a few more.
Oh,
a few more. All right, this is good.
I thought there was
there's a
only
few
two.
more.
No,
That's right.
No,
Let's
there's
go,
a few
baby.
more. I'm going to start with Georgie on this one.
Okay.
All right. Stevie G or Kevin De Bruyne?
Stevie G.
Wow, that was a quick answer.
It's not even.
Don't say it's not even close.
No, it's not. Like, to me, it's not. Well, no, okay, what? Like, for me, like, my opinion.
Stevie G's a better player than Kevin De Bruyne.
Yes. Like,
Okay.
overall, as a player, I think he is.
Okay. Joe?
Kevin De Bruyne.
Steven G can win you a final on his own.
You're right. De Bruyne can't. Oh, wait.
Well, he really, what? We're going to talk about the one time he actually showed up in the final?
Stop it.
All right.
Steven G. What about you?
Stevie G.
I think he's a better captain. I think he can lead a team into whether it's a win or a finals win, especially watching the FA Cup, watching the Champions Leagues. He's the one that, like in those teams, he's the one that wills you. Like, and again, you can say
wills the team to the Premier League title.
he did slip. However, Mignolet should have saved that shot.
Dembaba, right?
Yeah, sadly.
God.
Another thing about Stevie G is I think he's the most complete footballer of all time. I can't think of another player that's more complete than Steven Gerrard. In terms of the guy, anything in a game you can think of, the guy has done it. Champions League final, he played right back for like some amount of minutes because I forgot somebody came out. So
Okay.
I mean, I will say from a leadership standpoint, I think Steven Gerrard is better. If you're looking for a complete box-to-box midfielder, Steven Gerrard is better. However, goals win games, and De Bruyne needs 20 to 30 good minutes on any field, anytime, anywhere, against any opponent, and he can make something out of nothing. That it's there's like generational talents that come around that can do things that no one else can do, and to me, Kevin De Bruyne is one of them.
I think if I had one pick to start a team,
You
Any
start with
team.
Stevie G.
every time.
All right.
Sure.
Next one. Arjen Robben or Gareth Bale?
Speaking of
These
Robin,
are not typical comparisons, but they
They're
make you
not.
think. That was the point.
the guy ran 15 kilometers. Like the other day, at a pace of like
Bale?
Robin. Unreal pace. But like 15 kilometers, how many miles is that? I can't even like
I don't know,
5K,
Jordan.
3 miles.
I'm not very good with fractions.
No.
It's tough on the
Yeah,
beginning
let
of the
alone
episode.
con-
But
Conversion
it was
from-
like unreal, and the guy's like 40-something years old.
Right, but that has
I was
nothing to
gonna-
do
I
with
was gonna
It has
pick
nothing to do
my
with that.
question.
You want to go first?
But
Or
no,
you want me to
you go first. 'Cause I-
to me, Robin. He was one of my favorite players watching, like back in that era. I loved watching him play for Bayern. I love watching him play for the Netherlands. He could take players on. He could. I'm trying. I think it was against United. He scored an absolute screamer of a volley in the Champions League.
Yep.
Off a corner kick, comes to him and he just whips it. And he was just such an exciting player to watch. And Bale, I think, trophy-wise, was won way more than Robben did. However, I think that Robben was more influential for the teams that he played for, and put a lot of those teams on his back. I think Bale did that at Tottenham, and he did it in spurts at Real Madrid. But I also think it's somewhat an unfair thing because Bale, we never really got to see, in my opinion, how great Bale could have been for long periods of time because he didn't get the playing time he needed at Real Madrid. He would play, then he would sit, then he would play, then he would sit. But to me, Robben.
I'll probably go Robin too. You go this,
I would go Robin. Yeah.
and he's
Just
been
because
here
he's-
longer as well.
He's more
Yeah.
dangerous on a consistent level. Like every single time he got the ball and he was getting ready to cut in, you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
He was a baller at Chelsea, a baller at Bayern Munich.
He was good everywhere.
Yeah.
He was good everywhere. And for the national team, he was very good as well.
Yeah.
So I think Arjen Robben, just because he would do the same thing every single fucking time
But you can't stop it.
and you couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Cut in, boom, hit it with his left, curl it, goal.
He was what, 2 inches away from winning a World Cup?
Although he,
Iker Casillas saved that
yeah,
with his shin guard or toe.
Iker Casillas is the GOAT. So, but I will tell you what, Arjen Robben robbed Mexico of us progressing to the fifth game, which is like the game that we can never reach in the World Cup.
In Brazil, when he the dive.
The dive.
Yeah.
If we would have had VAR, if we would have VAR. To this day, people, so there's like a funny thing on the internet where it was like day 1, it was not a penalty. And then it was like day 2, it was not a penalty. Because people, and it was like,
They've been
literally
posting this every day
every
since
single
then.
day. It's like day 5,000, whatever. It was still not a penalty.
That's funny.
So
That is funny.
yeah, I kind of don't like him for that, but he was a good player.
He was great.
All right, next one. There's a couple more. I got 3 more.
I like
This
it.
this
All
is fun. I like this.
Adriano or Holland?
Holland.
Haaland's a better player?
Well, Haaland is like Adriano at the time was,
He was like
really
the first.
good.
He was like the first version of Haaland. I feel like.
but the guy was gonna get a red card every 10 minutes, and I feel like it's hard to judge. Like I would still take Haaland now, but it's hard to judge Haaland based off the 4 years that he's had at the highest level, where Adriano said the whole entire career potentially to be there, but it wasn't lived up to what he could have been. So that's why I would take Haaland. And Haaland's already should have won Ballon d'Or, technically, instead of Messi. So
No, I'm sure technically Adriano, there was 1 year that he could have won it,
nah,
but he didn't. Joe?
Also, when I think of Adriano, I think of the two hands getting that red card. So
But I agree with Joe's point. He was Haaland 1.0.
He was amazing. I mean, I guess I'll say I have to say Haaland because of what he's done. However, very few people like. There's certain things that Adriano can do that I don't think Haaland will ever be able to do. I think Adriano is much more. I don't want to say athletic because that's not fair to Haaland because he's extremely athletic. He's much more agile for his size, if that makes sense. Smooth is a good way to put it, and I think he was better technically, at least with the ball at his feet, and he could do more for the team. But when you have a striker who can break records his first season in the Premier League, and he's how old is he? Like in his early 20s.
yeah,
Like he's going. I would assume he's only going to get better. You have to go with Haaland, but Adriano is one of my all-time favorite players because he was built differently, as they say. What about you?
Haaland. Yeah, I think he's better overall. I was curious to see if one of you guys would say Adriano, but because I do think they're very similar in their playing style, and I just wonder if Adriano, had he not had any of those issues that he had in his personal life, how good he could have became, because he was a baller.
he was.
And that was at a time where you didn't see too many players like him that were athletic and could muscle everyone off the ball. So, but I would go Haaland. I think Haaland's been more impactful. All right. Sergio Ramos or Vidic?
Sergio Ramos.
Oof, I thought you were going to go Vidic.
But when we always talk about center backs, Vidic was not on my list.
That was easy for me. I say Vidic. I think he's one of the best center backs to ever play. He was. There's only one time I can ever remember Vidic not winning a one-on-one duel,
Mm-hmm.
and it was against Fernando Torres,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of my that game and that goal is one of my favorite goals. I don't know why I like that goal so much. I think it was because I hated Manchester United so much, and I hated Vidic because he was so good. And watching Torres manhandle him and then finish like that just made me so happy. But Vidic was unbelievable. Ramos is great too. It also might be because I think Ramos is absolutely crazy dirty.
He is good.
Which could be looked at as a positive for a center back if he's on your team and he's not getting red cards. But that's the other part of Ramos that I don't like is that there's plenty of games where you need him on the field and he is in the locker room early. Where Vidic, I think, was more well-rounded, more disciplined, kept his head, and was just a better defender and slightly better leader.
Okay.
How about you?
I am going to go Sergio Ramos. I think Sergio Ramos is the greatest defender of all time.
Over Maldini?
Over Maldini. And again, listen.
Wow.
Maldini I got to see very little of Maldini. So when we talk about like, you typically favor your generation a little bit more because you've seen them more versus just hearing about them. I would just say Sergio Ramos because Sergio Ramos was the complete center back. He could pass the ball. He could win the ball. He would score goals for you. He would get up the field. He was really just playing center back as his position of where he starts out on the field, but he could do so much more for you. Like, he's the guy that if I'm ever down, I'd put him up top. Just go score a goal. Like, he's when you're just throwing everything forward, I put Sergio Ramos because he has. He scored so many goals.
Scored some huge goals. Yeah.
Scored some very big goals in big moments, and
Champions League finals.
And the leadership perspective, the ability to play under pressure. How many times do you remember seeing Sergio Ramos just clear the ball under pressure versus playing it, taking a touch, actually building out? Besides the fact that he's gotten a few red cards,
just one or two maybe.
One or two. And again, his approach to the game in terms of his preparation, his taking care of his body. He's like the center back version of Ronaldo.
And he can sing.
And he can sing. He's got a career.
Got great tattoos.
That's why I think Michael Richards and Jamie Carragher are the best defenders of all time.
Who? Who did you just say?
Jamie Carragher and Michael Richards. I saw a stat. I don't know if it's true or not. That Jamie Carragher scored more goals for Tottenham. Than
for Liverpool.
Yeah.
All right. So the last segment, fun facts. This is starting to be my favorite segment only because we ran out of laws of the game because that was my favorite segment. We just ran out. But this is fun facts. So this one has to do with managers. Okay, can you name the shortest managerial stint at a club, at a professional club, and how long it lasted?
I can't name it.
The absolute shortest.
According to my sources on the internet.
1 hour.
So Georgie says 1 hour. First of all, you're not going to guess the person because it's a person you've probably never heard of.
That's what I was going to ask if someone you've ever heard of.
But so I guess the question would be more so, how long was the stint? And why would it be that short? So Georgie's saying an hour. So 1 hour, why would it have only lasted 1 hour?
I have no idea why. I have no idea. They got the wrong guy.
It's hired the wrong person.
He just looked like the guy that
he looked like the guy.
But you signed the contract?
All right, Joe, what do you think?
I'll go with 35 hours because the person accepted the job, but then got offered a better job and left and took that one.
Fair enough. Although there's probably some contract implications if you do that. You can't just sign a contract and then just leave, right? All right, you guys were
this is a tough one.
Kind of close. All right, so you want to hear it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the shortest managerial stint at a club was Leroy Rosenior. Rosenior.
Rosenior?
Rosenior? No, I don't know. Anyway, his name's Leroy. My boy Leroy.
Okay.
All right. My boy Leroy was at Torquay United. All right. He lasted just 10 minutes.
What?
As their manager.
Oh, okay. Wait. He said something stupid in the press conference.
Nope.
Oh.
So he signs a contract, right? They hire him. They appoint him. 10 minutes after the announcement of his rehiring was made, the club were taken over by a consortium who sacked him and appointed former Torquay player Paul Buckle instead. My question is, what is going on in 10 minutes that you have a guy sign a contract, be announced as a manager, and literally like 1 hour or like 24 hours, 36 hours, that makes a little bit more sense. But you're the new guy. Yeah, sign the contract. Oh yeah, we'll sell the club. All right, sorry, you're not the coach anymore. They want a different.
By the way,
guy.
the guy made money, so
that's what I'm interested in.
I wonder. I'm sure he did, but
hopefully he did.
So 10 minutes, and then they obviously had like a little bit of a media issue because they're like, didn't you just appoint this guy? And so the president or whatever.
Because if it's like before social media, it might not even been public yet.
2007.
Can you imagine? So not only did all of that happen in 10 minutes, but then the next coach was, I assume, present.
They're both in the building at the same time.
No. So they hired this guy, and then the consortium took over the club or whatever, and they're like, we're gonna appoint our own guy instead, so you're not the manager. So then they called their guy, and they were like, do you want to take the job?
So they might have signed.
It wasn't like they had already signed this guy or whatever. It was just.
I just didn't know.
I just don't know why. How are you signing if a consortium is about to take over your club? You're not making decisions about who your next manager is.
Yeah.
Without
You're
at
like-
least unless you're going to talk to them about it and say, hey, who do you want? We'll start like the
Right.
process.
Can you imagine if the next coach was in the crowd watching the press conference? It's like he gets the call. Yeah, I'll
10 minutes.
I'll take the job.
But what I was saying is that like they tried the president or whatever was like, well, he's still in charge. You know, they haven't officially appointed anybody else, so he's still. We've sold the club, and they said that they're looking, but right now it's still his club. Like it's still his role to take. And no, it wasn't. They hired another guy.
If you are a supporter of this club, please let us know
Torquay
what in the
United.
world happened in 2007.
That's sad.
Wild. 10 minutes.
That's
I thought you said an hour. I'm like, no way.
10 minutes. Can you imagine? Like, yeah, you call everyone, you text everyone. Oh, and then
you don't even have time to text.
Yeah,
anyone.
right. You literally just got off the
You're
phone with
still
your wife,
live.
and then now your
That
phone's
is
ringing.
true.
Oh,
You're still live in the press conference at this
Yeah.
point.
That's
So-
that's crazy.
2007. I guess you'd probably have a cell phone by then, right? Yeah, there were cell
Oh
phones
yeah,
by then.
that's
Yeah.
that's insane though.
That's
I was
insane.
rocking my chocolate. Was it chocolate or razor?
The Motorola Razr.
Motorola razor. Yeah.
I still had a flip phone. Well, that was
Dang,
2007.
you guys had money back then.
2007
huh?
was like my freshman year, I think, in high school, which means I would have been rocking a flip phone.
I had the
Oh, yeah, I was in high
old
school
school
too.
LG prepaid phone. You guys know people. I don't use it as a pager
Prepaid.
because all my friends had unlimited nights and weekends, so people would call me on mine. I wouldn't answer. I'd call them back on people's phones.
I was legit at that Snake game on the phone when the Nokias came out. I had a Nokia, and I was legit at the Snake game and Falling Numbers. Did you ever play Falling Numbers?
I played the Snake game. And I played. Did you have the blue Nokia one that was like the brick one that had the little?
The classic brick
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I didn't
the
play
blue one.
games on
It was
my
like
phone.
a tiny little one. Like,
Do you remember
was
T9 is how you texted? You text in your pocket real fast. You guys
I
remember
remember
that?
the numbers. Like you'd have to click three times if you wanted D or whatever.
Well,
it
no,
was.
because you never used T9, where you would just type the number
Yeah.
once and it would recognize the word, so you didn't have to go A B
that was
C
later.
D E like
That was later, but yes, I remember that.
because
I
that was when you
remember
could
Or just
really
get a BlackBerry.
I don't think I ever switched to that. I remember trying it out, and I was like, I don't like this, so I just stayed with the.
this
Or
guy
maybe I
over
did,
here.
I
Click,
can't
click,
remember.
click, click,
It
click,
was
click,
BlackBerry
click,
was-
click.
3, 444.
BlackBerry
The
was
BlackBerry was
1-1.
my favorite. I don't know why they ran out of business. I feel like BlackBerries would be popular now.
Smartphones just took over.
Yeah, these bad boys.
And
I would
BlackBerry was still-
I
The
would
buttons, they were addicting
Yeah.
with the little
And if
scroll
you had
thing.
fat fingers,
Yeah.
good luck.
I would rock a BlackBerry right now.
BBM, BlackBerry Messenger.
Oh man,
that was
the
like the
best.
thing. I felt bad because I was like the one guy who didn't have a BlackBerry, and everybody's like, "What's your
BBM.
pin or whatever they called it?"
Yeah.
And people would like, that's how you would talk to girls back in the days, like send over your pin or whatever. And I didn't have a BlackBerry.
All right.
But back to my Falling Numbers story. I was really good at that game. You never played Falling Numbers?
I never played.
So
any
it's a
games
tiny
on
little
phone.
screen though. That's the thing. It's not like this large screen. You have a
Tiny
tiny little
analog
screen,
green and black.
and numbers would fall from the screen, kind of like Tetris. And you'd have to press the number that's falling, and they would start falling faster. So you're like 7, 8, 5, sort of like really quickly.
Oh,
And I was really good at that game. Snake, I was good too. Anyways,
that's
to
a
know.
fun
Off topic
fact.
is-
He's
as
better
usual.
at falling numbers than Snake than telling jokes.
all right. You know what? One thing we haven't done at all this episode. Can you guys guess? We have not given a shout out to our social media channels.
Ooh.
Oh.
YouTube.com/@the_NGW podcast, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram @the NGW podcast. Nobody's watching this at this. Nobody's watching us at this point in the podcast anyway.
Nope.
So
Nope.
If
But-
you stayed with us this long,
you got a free piece of Champion Grind merch. Let us know in
message
the comments.
If you-
Champion Grind in the comments.
Nobody's gonna message us. 'cause
Nobody's gonna
nobody stayed this
message. Joe's gonna message his whole entire group chat.
long. All right, that's it. You guys got anything else?
No.
Catch you in the next one. Peace.
Messi to the